Welcome again. There's something very exciting I want us to discuss today in biology. Now, but before we go into that discussion, which of course it has to do with a topic very exciting, everyone should know this, it's all about pollution. But before we start looking at this topic on pollution, I just want to ask this simple question. What do you think is or are the effects of ozone layer depletion on human health? Now, a lot of us have heard this word called ozone layer depletion, ozone layer, the ozone layer. What effect, what is so important about ozone layer, and what is ozone layer depletion, and what are some of the effects of this ozone layer depletion? Now, if you look at it, ozone layer actually is a region in the Earth's atmosphere. There is a part of the Earth's atmosphere called the stratosphere. And in this stratosphere, there are concentrations or high concentrations of what we call ozone. Now, these ozone, they form a layer that protects the Earth from harmful ultraviolet radiations from the sun. They protect the Earth from this radiation. These radiations, if allowed into the Earth, can cause a lot of harm, and we're going to be seeing some of those harms. It causes a lot of harm. So what is actually ozone layer depletion? Ozone layer depletion is actually the gradual thinning or the gradual removal of this layer, the gradual thinning or removal of this layer in the Earth's stratosphere. Remember, I said that one of the importance of this ozone layer is actually to protect the Earth from harmful radiations, which are ultraviolet radiations from the sun. Now, ozone layer depleting substances are what causes ozone layer depletion. Ozone layer doesn't just deplete on it, or the ozone layer doesn't just deplete or gradually become thin on its own. There are several activities or several substances that bring about ozone layer depletion. And these substances come as a result of human activities. Now, some of these substances include chlorofluorocarbon, which is normally called CFC. We have the halones, we have the hydrofluorocarbons, and so many other substances that are responsible for the ozone layer depletion. Now, some of the effects of this ozone layer depletion on humans, mostly humans, it also affects other living organisms. But on human, it causes several skin diseases. It also causes skin cancer. It causes sunburn. It causes cataracts of the eyes. It also brings about quick aging and also weak immune system. These are some of the effects it has on humans. Now, ozone layer depletion must be controlled. One of the ways we control ozone layer depletion is actually prohibition. The government should prohibit the use of nitrous oxides, to prohibit the use of nitrous oxides, substances that are used for that involves the use of nitrous oxide. Also, use of eco-friendly cleaning products should be adopted. That is, the eco-friendly cleaning, sort of like ecosystem-friendly cleaning products should be adopted. Also, we should reduce the use of ozone-depleting substances, such as the CFCs, which is found in refrigerators and air conditioners. We should replace them with sort of like harmless products or substances. So these are some of the ways we can actually control ozone layer depletion. Now, ozone layer depletion is one of the major effects of air pollution. And in this particular topic, we're going to be looking at pollution. Now, pollution has different types. We're going to be looking at the types of pollution. We're going to also be discussing what pollution is all about based on definition. We're also going to be looking at what we call pollutants. There are substances called pollutants. We're also going to be looking at air pollution in details. We're going to look at the definition of air pollutants. We are going to be looking at the causes of air pollutants, which we can also call air pollution, which we can also call air pollutants, and we're going to look at some of their sources, where they come from or where they are obtained from. We're also going to be looking at some of the effects of air pollution, and then finally we're going to be talking about how to control air pollution. How to control air pollution. Now, air pollution has been a very important environmental hazard in our society. So much it has caused a lot of problems, and we're going to be looking at how to help ourselves, how to be involved in actually controlling air pollution. Now, first of all, there are several things we're supposed to note at the end of this particular class, and we call that our specific objective. Now, one of the specific objectives is that at the end of this class, you should be able to define pollution. You should be able to give the definition of pollution. Number two, you should be able also to define what are called pollutants, because it's very, very important we know what pollutants are and then also note the definition of pollution. Also, number three, we should be able to mention the types of pollution. And in fact, in this particular class, we're going to be looking at 4 different types of pollution. We're actually going to be talking about air pollution. We're going to talk about noise pollution. We're going to talk about water pollution. And then we're also going to be looking at land or soil pollution. Also, another specific objective you are expected to note at the end of this particular class is that you should be able to define air pollution. Be able to define air pollution, and also note or be able to identify some of the air pollutants and their sources. Be able to identify air pollutants and their sources. And then also you should be able to mention some of the effects of air pollutants. That is, these substances, how do they cause, what are some of the effects they cause in our environment, on our lives as humans, and also on other living organisms. And then finally, we should be able to note ways of actually controlling them. It is so much important for us to note ways of controlling them, not just identifying the problem, but actually solving the problem. Okay? Now, first of all, let's look at the definition of pollution. Definition of pollution. Now, by definition, pollution is simply the process of introducing harmful substances into the environment to the extent that it causes biological damage. Or you can say it is the introduction of harmful substances into the environment to the extent that it causes biological damage. So once harmful substances are introduced to the environment, if it causes biological damage, then we can say pollution has set in. Is that okay? So pollution has set in when biological damage is observed by the introduction of harmful substances. Now, for instance, we have in terms of air pollution. Now, if I add carbon dioxide continuously into the atmosphere, it increases the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, carbon dioxide at this point can be referred to as a pollutant because I am increasing it. Now, the increase of carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere can cause biological damage. So since it can cause biological damage, it is referred to as, the introduction of this substance is referred to as pollution. Now, what are actually pollutants? Pollutants are those harmful substances. Remember, we said pollution is the introduction of harmful substances, while pollutants are those harmful substances which, when introduced into the environment, can cause biological damage to living organisms. If it can cause biological damage to the ecosystem, it means that substance that is being introduced is now referred to as pollutants. We have several types of pollutants. We have noise pollutants, we have air pollutants, we have land pollutants, we have water pollutants. We're going to be looking and exploring all these types of pollutants. Okay, now next thing to take note of is types of pollution. Now we have different types of pollution. In some books you will see that we have, some books will tell you 3 types of pollution, which is air pollution, water pollution, and land pollution. But in this particular topic of discussion, we will be discussing noise pollution as the 4th type of pollution. But however, today we will be looking strictly at air pollution. We're going to only cover the area of air pollution. Okay, so let's take a look at what we call air pollution. Now, air pollution can simply be defined as the introduction of harmful substances into the atmosphere to the extent that it causes biological damage. Introduction of harmful substances into the atmosphere. So if it is water pollution, into water bodies. If it is land, it is introduction of harmful substances into the land or into the soil to the extent that it causes biological damage. So air pollution is when harmful substances are introduced into the atmosphere to the extent that it causes biological damage. Remember what I told you about carbon dioxide as referred to as an air pollutant. So what are air pollutants? Now, air pollutants can be simply referred to as harmful substances which, when introduced into the environment or into the atmosphere, can cause biological damage. Number 1 on the list here is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide. Now, carbon monoxide is actually a gas that can be sourced from burning fuels in cars and some industrial processes. Some industrial processes emit carbon monoxide. Some, in fact, burning cars, they emit carbon monoxide. Even the cigarette people smoke, they emit carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide is also one of the air pollutants. We also have another air pollutant which is called carbon dioxide. Now, please note, carbon dioxide is also an air pollutant. An air pollutant. It can cause damage, like I said before, it can cause biological damage. Now, carbon dioxide is referred to as a greenhouse gas. Now, greenhouse gases brings about global warming or brings about greenhouse effect, and greenhouse effect brings about global warming. And global warming as well also brings about increase in the ocean level, and which can also lead to flooding. So you can see that carbon dioxide can also be referred to as an air pollutant. Why? It brings about biological damage when it is increased, when the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is increased. Okay. Another air pollutant we're going to be looking at is the CFCs. We have just mentioned it, which brings about the ozone layer depletion. Okay, CFC. So CFC is short form for chlorofluorocarbon. So chlorofluorocarbon is also another example of air pollutants. We also have sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is also another important air pollutant, and it can be sourced from burning from the burnings from vehicle exhaust, from coal minings, and also from cement factories. That is how we can source or where sulfur dioxide can actually be gotten from or obtained from. Also, another air pollutant is nitrogen oxide. Now, nitrogen oxide can be sourced from electrical discharge in air. If you could remember when we started discussing water cycle, and also when we were discussing nitrogen cycle, we made mention of it. We said that nitrogen is being fixed into the atmosphere. One of the ways nitrogen is being fixed into the atmosphere fixed into the soil rather, from the atmosphere is by thunderstorm and lightning. And thunderstorm and lightning can simply be referred to as electrical discharge in air. So nitrogen oxide can be sourced from electrical discharge in air, and it can also be sourced from industrial processes, We also have another air pollutant, which is called smoke and soot. Smoke and soot. Some time ago in Port Harcourt in Nigeria, there was some emission of soot based on the burning of crude oil, local refining of crude oil, and so many other things that filled the atmosphere with a lot of soot. Now, soot and smoke can be sourced from burning of substances from industries. It can be sourced from burnings from machines and coals into the air. So these are some of the ways we can, like if you want to burning of wood, okay, can bring about smoke and also soot, okay. These are some of the sources of smoke and soot. Another air pollutant is called dust particles. Now, please take note, the reason we call them air pollutants is because they cause biological damage. And we're going to be looking at some of the biological damages they actually cause to both to both plants as well as to animals. And number 5, like we said, is dust particles. Now, dust particles can be sourced from minings, can be sourced from the quarries, can be sourced or gotten from machines, as well as during industrial processes, we can also get dust particles. And we also have another one, which is probably going to be the final one I'm going to talk about concerning air pollutants. We have radioactive rays. Radioactive rays. Now, radioactive rays are also air pollutants. They can be sourced from industrial processes such as electric plants that use radioactive substances. Electric plants that use radioactive substances. Now, quickly, let's look at some of the effects of air pollution. One of the effects of air pollution is that it causes suffocation because it combines with hemoglobin. And when it combines with hemoglobin, hemoglobin has a strong affinity for oxygen. It has a very strong affinity for oxygen, and it helps also to transport oxygen from the lungs to other parts of the body and to the cells and tissues where they are actually needed. Now, if instead of oxygen binding with hemoglobin, carbon monoxide then binds with hemoglobin, it causes a whole lot of problem. Like I said, it can lead to suffocation, and if not attended to, can lead also to death. Can lead to death. Now, one of the an example of an air pollutant that can cause suffocation is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide. Another one again is another effect of air pollution or air pollutants is that it can cause impaired health conditions. It can cause impaired health such as irritation of the eyes. Okay, if sulfur dioxide gets to the eyes, it causes irritation of the eyes. It can also cause irritation of the lungs and skin. It can also bring about coughing and also some respiratory tract diseases. So it can cause that. And that an example of a gas that can bring about these illness or impaired health conditions is sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide. Another one is, another effect of air pollutants is that it forms what we call acid rain. It forms acid rain, which can bring about a whole lot of effects on plants. It can damage plants. It can cause corrode metallic object, that is bring about rusting, and so many other things. It can also affect your clothes and so many other things that acid rain can cause. Now, an example of an air pollutant that can result in acid rain, that can cause acid rain, is nitrogen oxide. Now, when this nitrogen oxide reacts with water in the atmosphere or in the cloud, it reacts with the water in the cloud to form nitric acid. And this nitric acid remains in the cloud. When the cloud is full, it falls down to the earth as rain. And we see it as showers of nitric acid, which is called acid rain. It has some effects. Like I said, it brings about corrosion of metallic objects. It affects plants negatively. It affects plants negatively. Another, and one of the examples of the gases that brings about acid rain is nitrogen oxide. Also, another effect of air pollution or air pollutant is that it reduces visibility. It reduces visibility. An example is smoke and soot. Have you seen a place, have you been to a place probably on the road where smoke from exhaust pipes of cars, or probably someone is burning something and tires are being burnt and so on, and the smoke and the soot is just all over the road? It can reduce visibility, and reduction in visibility can lead to accidents, to great terrifying accidents. Okay. Also, it brings about blackening. It blackens paints on buildings, and also damages the lungs and causes discomfort. Imagine smoke all over your face. Okay, it causes eye irritation also, and causes a great discomfort. Great discomfort. It can also lead to respiratory tract diseases. And an example, like I said before, is smoke and soot. Also, we have dust particles. Dust particles can also bring about respiratory system, irritation of the respiratory system. It can also bring about cough. It can also bring about catarrh. It can also bring about influenza, dust particles. It can also stimulate asthmatic people or asthmatic patients. Okay, it can also stimulate asthma, and so many other respiratory tract diseases can be stimulated or triggered by dust particles. Also, radioactive rays. Now, radioactive rays actually impairs the health by destroying or altering genes. That is gene alteration. It can bring about gene alteration. Now, these are some of the negative effects or some of the effects of air pollution. Now, it's not just enough knowing the problem or the negative effect that air pollution or pollution has created, but also one of the major reasons why we study this is to source for solutions or ways we can prevent these pollutions, or ways we can control air pollution. So we're going to be looking at ways we can control air pollution. One of the ways we can control air pollution is, instead of burning things on the open area of the open field, we can burn things using incinerators. Burning of refuse in incinerators. Also, industries should be sited far away from residential areas. Industries should be sited far away from residential areas. And then lastly, legislation should be made against indiscriminate burning. Yes, legislation should be made by the government against indiscriminate burning that may bring about soot as well as smoke. Okay, so these are some of the ways we can control air pollution. And this brings us to the end of this particular class on air pollution, or on pollution, looking at air pollution. Now, but before we go, let's take a look at some questions using the ExamGuide app. Very few questions, very few. We're going to be looking at number one. Look at this. They said, which of the following methods will not reduce air pollution? Will not reduce air pollution. A, they said siting factories and power stations away from residential areas. Of course, we've just mentioned that when you site industries or factories away from residential area, you are helping to reduce air pollution. But the question says will not reduce air pollution. So that's not the correct option. Now look at the other one. They said use lead-free petrol in car. Now lead-free petrol, yes, using of lead-free petrol in car also helps to reduce air pollution, because most of the gaseous emissions of these cars, if they contain more of lead, can lead to a biological damage, can lead to several biological damages, can lead to respiratory tract diseases, can cause cough, and so many other things. Then also look at question C, said recycling things, cans and bottles. Now, and then option D said building tall factory chimneys. Now, chimney is actually a kind of a structure that helps to channel smoke and soot from factories, and this then safely to a better place where it does not cause much air pollution. Now, if you look at the options that are listed from A to D, the correct option to this question is C. Recycling tins, cans, and bottles has nothing to do with air pollution. Has nothing to do with air pollution. Or even if it has something to do with air pollution, it will not reduce air pollution. So the correct answer is option C. Now take a look at question 2, still on air pollution. Now, a constituent of the exhaust fumes from electricity generating sets, that is the generators, which causes serious air pollution. Is it water vapor? No. Is it ozone? No. Is it carbon dioxide? Please, no. The correct option to this is D, which is carbon 2 oxide, or you can call it carbon monoxide. Then option 3, or question 3, has to do with noise pollution. We'll look at that much later. Look at question 4. It says the pollutant that contributes to the depletion of the ozone layer in the atmosphere are, that brings, remember we talked about depletion of the ozone layer. That was the first thing we looked at. So we're looking at the pollutants that brings about depletion of the ozone layer. Now, is it the radioactive materials? No. Is it oxides of sulfur? No. Is it oxides of carbon? No. But is it chlorofluorocarbons? The correct answer is option D, chlorofluorocarbon. Now look at question 5. Let's see if we can see any other question that has to do with air pollution. Very correct. Now question 5 says air pollution can be reduced by the following methods except. Can be reduced, can be reduced, can be reduced. Now A says building tall factory chimneys. B says passing waste gases through filter and absorbers. C says using lead-free petrol in cars. And D says recycling tins, cans, and bottles. From what we see here, the correct answer is still supposed to be D, because all these options A to C, they can be used to reduce, can be used to reduce air pollution. The only one that is not used to reduce air pollution, as you can see here, except is D. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using your ExamGuide app. The app scores and gives a detailed explanation of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can also learn particular topics of interest with different modes like study mode, mock mode, and even practice mode. It also has other features that makes learning very fun. Now, it is a must for all serious students. Download from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels, hit the notification bell, and share the videos to your loved ones and friends that will benefit from it. Bye for now.